the level of tolerance is much lower than it is for northern countries. We know, for example, that Iceland and Estonia passed through crisis and managed to withstand the pain. They were trained that there's no gain without pain. And in the Southern European, this is what you see, and you see what you get. This is definitely a lower tolerance for pain. Now, and I'm not judging the suffering of these countries, but whether it's Greece, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Ireland is somewhere in between. So they are less stoic, but that's the situation. And as a result, to conclude, in Italy, for example, in the coming elections, you have about 40% of the electorate still undecided. Some of them have voted for a sort of new party led by somebody on a television who is sort of a funny man, to say so, grimly. And so you can see this uncertainty. People don't know. It's more of a protest vote than a vote for any party because they've lost all confidence in them.
Okay, thank you. And what would you say are basically the opportunities then?
Regarding the opportunities, I mean, just like in a market, you always find contrarians, that they go always against the current. When the property prices are falling, instead of selling, they will buy. That's the contrarians, and even Maltese entrepreneurs have invested in Greece, in the food chain industry, and in Estonia, and they are quite happy about their decision. So even though we think that crisis is all over and you wouldn't touch these countries, it is not so. If you are selective, you always find niches where you cannot find opportunities, even during a crisis. I mean, even in the 1930s, the cinema industry flourished. So, because people went to the cinemas because they were unemployed, and so on. So, niches there will be and opportunities there will be. You only have to look for them and be a lot selective, obviously.
Okay, thank you. Just, Mr. SCICLUNA, how long do you have? Because I don't know if I can ask a question as well.
I've been told that we can stay till, here in this room till 20 minutes past 4.
20 minutes past 4, okay. So you still have time.
We can have another round and then maybe I will, go ahead.
Okay, maybe the other panelists, EMMANUEL, SIGALAS, maybe you can tell us more about what you think are the threats and opportunities for Southern Europe as well.
Well, there are many threats and many opportunities. First of all, by definition, when you have a crisis, it's at the same time a threat and opportunity, right? I'd like to focus more on the political threats. The economic threats, more or less, we know. The economy is being dismantled in Southern Europe, the welfare state as well. But there's also the threat of political instability in some countries more than others. Rise of extremism, left-wing extremism, right-wing extremism, racism, all these are associated. Populism is a huge problem. It's on the rise and will continue to be on the rise. There's also, threats at the individual level, at the national level, at the European level. I think at the individual level it's obvious. Some people are becoming poorer and poorer. At the national level, again, the countries, the economy is getting worse off. But also at the European level, it seems that the threat is that if the EMU collapses, the Eurozone collapses, then basically the EU will no longer be as attractive an option as it used to be. So there are really concerns about the future of the EU in the long term at least. And to quickly go to the opportunities, we have a crisis that's an opportunity perhaps to have a look at what went wrong. We do know that what went wrong. The EMU was not an optimum currency. Area economists know this very well. See if they can fix it, how they can fix it. And it's also perhaps an opportunity to move ahead towards stronger, more integration at the European level. And at some point, sooner or later, we'll have to start raising the question whether we can have a kind of European government, a European-wide electorate, and a European political union.
Thank you for your comments. Another question would be for whole panel here. This crisis is obviously going to take a long time to fix. Would you say that the Eurozone was a risky project? Mr. SCICLUNA, if you want to intervene?
Yes. Well, any project would be risky if you don't monitor it.
Yeah.
If you are carried away with the hype, whatever it is, you get carried away. I mean, the economic boom and the markets before the crisis was a case in point. It was not a Eurozone. This was a banking crisis. And nobody watched the warnings, the hype carried them, and were making money and having a good time. So any project would be risky, including the economy itself. However, this Eurozone was a political project, firstly, and economically, secondly. In other words, Mandel, who was the creator of this theory of the common currency area, had a number of criteria which must be met, and they were not met by the Eurozone. So from the beginning, the Americans were telling the Europeans, watch out, you don't fulfill all the criteria of a common currency area. So it was an accident waiting to happen. Now, the Europeans thought of a growth and stability pact to compensate for that lack of all the criteria being met. However, it was a wishy-washy. There was Prodi years ago who said this is a stupid thing to have a 3% deficit and a 60% debt. Who invented it? And then Trichet stood his ground and opposed any touching it. Obviously, Germany and France went over and they disrespected the rules and also removed the sanctions. And as a result, we know the story happened. So, by all means, it was an accident waiting to happen because it was purely political and the rules were not respected, and the imbalances which were created over the years, especially between the northern, Germany, and the southern European countries, was